and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on the call today. So my name's Sophie Souchon. I'm one of the digital transformation consultants here at the Digital Transformation Hub, a part of the Info Exchange group with Connecting Up. So the Hub focuses on digital technology as an enabler to support service transformation, new ways of working, and assisting non-for-profits on the broader digital transformation journey. So before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. So we're on Microsoft Teams today to make it as interactive as possible. So please turn your camera on and stay on mute during the presentation. If you have any technical issues, please type it in the chat box and I will get back to you. We really encourage any questions you have through the session. No question is too silly, so please type it in the chat box and myself or Anne will answer it by the end of the webinar. Please note that this webinar has been recorded and a link of the recording, the slides and a short survey will be sent to you as soon as the webinar ends. Today, I'm excited to welcome you to Transform Collaboration with Microsoft Teams and introduce Anne, our presenter today.
Thank you so much, Sophie, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. In today's webinar, we will be able to discuss reasons that options may differ between different Microsoft Teams user, explain why the @ sign is used as a prefix to a name in chat in Teams, describe the difference between Teams and channels and confidently navigate them, and then we will have a Q&A session so you can ask as many questions as possible. So let's get started. Many users come to us and ask why they do not see the same option on screen within Teams at other people's or as me. Why do you think that this is? If you have used Teams before, please feel free to enter it in the chat. There are many ways that we can explain these difference. There are some great suggestions, but here are some reasons. The first reason is the configurations might be different. Microsoft 365 can be configured very differently in the backend. So your Teams applications might be configured differently compared to my Teams applications. So that is the first reason. The second reason is because you might use the app versions installed on desktop while the other person use it in browser. Normally, when you open up a Teams meeting link, it will prompt you to open the meetings in desktop applications installed on your computer. However, if you're on a public computer or you're on someone else's computer or even on a computer that you're not familiar to, you might use the browser version. So it's easier to log in. You do not have to install the application on that computer. So that might explain the difference. The third reason might be you're on Mac OS instead of Windows. So the two versions, the Mac version and the Windows versions, might be a bit different. Microsoft always try to load the most updated features on Windows first. So you might see a bit of difference between those two. Another reason that might explain this is because of the screen size difference in general. So you might be on full screen mode while the other users is on a different screen size mode. So all the features are hidden in the 3 dot buttons, more dot buttons. You can see on the screen where I'm circling my mouse around. You might adjust the zoom settings in Teams so that you see different things because of the zoom in or zoom out. Also, users might be on different Microsoft Teams versions. You can even be on a pre-release or late release versions where features are different. So make sure that when you compare each other, you're on the same version of Microsoft Teams. And the last reason would be how you're using Teams. Is a laptop versus iPhone or versus iPad. So Teams on laptop is very different from Teams on your phone when you compare their appearance, because the phone screen is a bit smaller. You have less space on the mobile phone screen. So that's why you will see a more clustered view of Teams on your phone, while Teams on desktop have more space, so they lay out more features on the screen. So when you compare your Teams screen, always check your screen size, zoom in and zoom out of the apps, whether you're using full screen or you minimize it under the Windows menu options, or look under more actions, the three dot in the menu, the three dot that I'm pointing to. Yeah, that three dots is very important. You can find all sort of features in the three dots, even when you're looking at opening up. Please open your Teams screen right now in this meeting and find that three dots on the screen. You sure can find heaps of other functions in there. So whenever, my first tip is whenever you can't find the features in Teams while you're making a call or a meeting with your teams, try to find in that three dots, and it might surprise you. Chat is another feature that we commonly use and very important in Teams. There are two chat options within Teams. One is one-on-one Teams, or in a group using the chat icon. So if you press on the chat icon, you'll be able to chat directly with another users, or you can create a group chat so you can chat with other team members. Another option is you can chat via the Teams channel, but they name it differently. They name it as post. Go to the post tabs in your team channels and then start posting or chatting with other people in there. There are some helpful tips while you chat in a post. Use the @ to direct your message at someone specific when you're in a group chat, or even using the chat features in Teams channels.
Are you any good on Teams, Sophie?
I'm getting better.
Oh,
Supposed to
sorry.
be in a meeting now.
Can someone on mic go on mute? Thank you so much. I'll be happily chat with you during the Q&A session. Thank you. So coming back to some helpful tips, use the @ to direct a message at someone specific when you're in a group chat or using the chat features in Teams channel. It's very much the same like you do with messaging in Facebook. Hold on a moment, I'll mute Grandpa who's not muting. Thank you. So coming back to our presentations, yeah, it's very much the same as what you normally do with other social media like Facebook when you want to tag someone, or yeah, pointing at someone in the comments. Another helpful tip is you use Shift-Enter. By using Shift-Enter, it will put a cursor on a new line in the chat, so you do not just send one line chat. And the last tip I want to give you is there's a very useful search feature which will help you search for a person or a keyword. So if you can see the chat box on the top of the image that I'm showing on the screen right now, type whatever you want to search in there, and it will bring you the search result that you want. You can find a person, you can find a file, you can find chat history in there, all sort of things you want to find, you can find in that search box. So if you have used Teams before, which which of these options you use more frequently, and then do you have any other tips that you want to share with each other? Feel free to type it in the chat so we can discuss in the Q&A. You might have heard I've mentioned a lot about Teams channels in the last few slides. So let me explain a bit more. What is Teams? What is channels? And what's the good and bad about it? Microsoft Teams has both Teams and channels. Sorry that Teams frequently Teams is I don't know why Microsoft usually name things very similarly, but in today's webinar, when I mentioned team without an S, it would be teams that are a collection of people, content and tools surrounding different projects and outcome within your nonprofits. So it's a concept in these applications. Teams is designed to bring together a group of people who work closely to get things done. It can be dynamic for project-based work as well as ongoing project or program to reflect the internal structure of your nonprofits. For example, it can be structured by department or by locations. Within Teams, you can carry out conversations, store files, and note across Teams channels. And all the content in there are only visible to members of the team. So what is channels? Channels are dedicated sections within a team to keep conversation organized by specific topics, projects, or disciplines. Whatever works for your nonprofits, you can structure the channel that way. Channels are places where conversations happen and where work actually gets done. Channels can be open to all team members in standard channels. If you want to have a channel that is only available for a limited group of people, you can create a private channel. The private channel is only visible to the private channel's members, and only the members allowed in that private channels can access the files and content in there. So these two types of channel will help you organize the teams better. You can also, in Teams, you can also add under your channels by clicking the plus button, as you can see on the screen. As a standard, you can see 3 tabs: Posts, Files, Wiki, and the plus sign. If you we are not wiki fans, although you might be, but you can add useful apps like OneNote. The reason why we're not really a wiki fan is because it's not very good for organizing your notes. It's quick and easy, but it's not as good as OneNote to organize your note. So you can have a try and you compare them and you can pick whatever works for you. Personally, I like to add Planner to my Teams channels because normally we work very agilely and we work at different place in Australia as well. For example, one of our team members currently in Gold Coast, most of us in Melbourne. So when we work, it's very hard to keep up with each other work. So we add that Planner apps. In Planner apps, we put buckets of works of our tasks in there. We can assign tasks to other team members, and we can keep up with each other's progress in our project. So it's very helpful for us. So that's my favorite apps. Channels enable you to post, start the conversations with other members, and add or edit files, as you can see in Files tabs. Files that you store in the channels or in the Files tab, as I'm circling on the screen right now, are stored in SharePoint. So SharePoint is the technology behind this tab in Office 365. By default, when you work on a document in Teams, it will open in there too. So there is an option to open it in its native applications. So for example, currently on the screen is webinar 1 effectively contribute to a Teams PowerPoint document. When you click on this document, normally the PowerPoint, this PowerPoint will open directly in the team application. So you do not have to open another applications to edit or to view this slide deck. However, when it is open natively in Teams, only basic functions of Word, Excel, or PowerPoint available. If you would like to have more complicated features, such as like it's very specific fonts to your organization, then you have the options to open the file in the native app. So for example, with this file, you have the options to open this in PowerPoint instead of viewing it in Teams. So it is a way to work quickly with files or a way to open it in the native app. Coming back to Teams and channels, by right mouse clicking or using the 3 more actions dot next to channels or Teams, where I'm pointing now, on the left-hand side of the first image on the top, yeah, you can hide it, or if it's no longer required, or simply you just no longer need it, you can delete it as well. Just remember, if you delete the channel or team, it is gone for good, and you lose the history of any document stored or chat that's occurred. So make sure you archive the file correctly. You put it somewhere if you still need those old files before you actually delete or remove the channels and the teams. You can also add another channels from team level. You can manage members, and this will show you how who's in the channels or team, and you can even edit the team, which allows you to add or remove teams members. So feel free to create a test teams in your tenant, and create a test team, create some test channels, try it out to get a grab of what features are available in there, how can you use it efficiently. So that is all I want to introduce to you in this webinar. Sophie, would you like to take over for the Q&A sessions?
Thank you very much, Anne. I'll ask if anyone has any questions to please pop them in the chat box or come off mute. We're more than happy to answer any questions you have about the session. I do have a couple of questions, Anne, that came in before the session started. So one of them was, how do I create a new team?
Thank you so much, Sophie. So let me go back a few screens. So normally if you go to open the Teams applications on your computer, you can see this Teams tab. Below, like on the lower left corner of your Teams application screen, you will see an option to create new teams there. Sorry that it is not currently displayed in this image, but it's at the place where I'm circling my mouse right now. There should be an option to create a team at the place I'm circling right now. In the Teams tab, you can find lower left corner of the Teams application screen. It will give you an option to create a public or private team. Public, it means anyone in your organizations can find and join that teams. Private is an owner will be assigned to that teams, and they will add more people into that teams. I hope that helps.
Just a follow-up on question on that. And then we'll answer Stuart's question. If I don't have that option, what does that mean?
If you don't have that option, it might be your team. The first reason I can think of, there's many reasons, but the first reason I can think of is You do not, your administrator or whoever take care of your IT environment is currently configure that only a set of people can create teams in your organizations. If you still have that issue, I'm really happy to troubleshooting that with you after this webinar. Please feel free to shoot us an email by replying to our follow-up email, and then we can work it out together. But mostly it will be in there. If it's not in there, the first point of contact is your IT support to see if they actually limit the permissions to create new teams in your organization.
Great, thanks, Anne. I've got a question here from Stuart. I'm not exactly sure how it relates back to the content we're talking about today, but Anne, I'll let you answer it. Otherwise, Stuart might also be helped to come off mute and give us some context. So if you're scheduling a meeting for the future, is there a way to set someone else to have organizer controls?
So this Lunch and Learn series is a series about teams. In a previous webinars, we have mentioned the difference between meetings and webinars. So you might have not been able to differentiate it. There are two types of meeting you can create in Teams. It's either a normal meeting, so you can join with other team members or a few others, external clients, or it's a webinar that what we are doing today is actually a webinar. So by a webinar, as its name, it has more participants, and then it has organizer and presenter, different roles. So if you're talking about a meeting, then whoever have a meeting links can join and start the meetings. You don't have to wait for each other. If you are in the same organizations, if it's an external user, then you will need whoever in the organizations that created the meeting links to allow you in that meetings. So that's normal meetings. With webinar is a bit more complex. It has different roles, so only organizer and presenter of that meetings can allow now participants to come into that meetings. So if you want to set the other persons as a co-organizer of that webinar, you can set them up as presenter. So for example, in this webinar, I am the organizer of this webinar. However, Sophie is a presenter. So both those roles can manage most of the functions in the webinars. I hope that answers your questions. Sophie, do you want to add anything?
What I was just going to add was, if you are going a little bit more into the meeting side and hosting meetings, come and join that Lunch and Learn. It's on in the next couple of weeks, and where you'll learn a lot more about how to use the meeting feature and the webinar feature to host your upcoming meetings. Great. If there are any other questions, please pop it in the chat. I've got another question here, Anne. In terms of I like the idea of being able to add files into my Teams environment, but my file structure is quite messy. Would it be best to fix up my files, or what's the best approach there?
Thank you so much, Sophie. Teams come with a great place to store your files, and it's very easy to store files in Teams, as you can just drag and drop the files in. But however, before you move your files into Teams, it's a great chance for you to clean up your file structure, archive old files that you no longer need, and actually sit down with your teams to discuss, is that the file structure that I want in Teams? When you move to Teams, you need to create new teams and channels. So that's also an opportunity for you to actually reorganize your files as you work in Teams, or as your team structure. As I as many clients I've been working with, they find it very helpful to clean up those files before actually migrating files in Teams, because there are files that they have been keeping for 20 years that they don't even open them out. So work with your teams to work out the best structure that fits your organizations. So it helps for your business process as well, not just IT. And organizing your files accordingly, clean up them, and give them a new life. Do you want to add anything, Sophie?
That's great, Anne. Thank you very much there. Now, we haven't had any other questions in the chat. If you do have any questions after this session, please either email us at the Hub, the Digital Transformation Hub, or respond to the email and we will be able, the webinar email, and we'll be able to answer any of your questions. Thank you for joining us today, and we wish you have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See ya. Bye.